Dos rubias de pelo en pecho. 2 blondes with hair on their chest.
With hair on their chest? 2 blondes?
Dos rubias de pelo
White
en pecho.
chicks.
Correct!
I'm always pleasantly surprised when we meet sort of fellow peers or fans of our show, and they'll go, yeah, so where's your guys' studio?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no,
It's here.
Wait, you record it at your flat? And I'm like, is it? I thought it was kind of obvious that it's giving flat.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But then
I guess it's very white. I've got very white walls, which would be like a sort of faux studio home setup.
we're not even in the same space. So people think, I'm actually in a different building. And
George
James
lives
is
in the Philippines.
Yeah, this is all just
you
synced
guys
up.
didn't tell?
You guys have never seen me in James's shot and vice versa. There's a reason for
AI,
that.
baby. George is at the Philippines premiere or press screener for Blink Twice, and I'm just in the London one, and then we shoing match the lighting.
And there's not even a delay.
No. I do this thing when I'm miking people up for sound. I mean, I need to just get them to say something so I can just check how loud the sound is and how loud someone's voice is. And I always do something. I'll either ask them just quickly for sound, what they have for breakfast, or sometimes I go, and what's your favourite film and why? Because it sort of distracts them, and they go, oh, you know, like often it's like The Dark Knight, or oh, I love Love Actually. I got Cheaper by the Dozen over the weekend. Really? Yeah, Cheaper by the Dozen. It was a dancer. I was like, oh yeah, just what's your favourite film and why? She's like, oh, Cheaper by the Dozen. Love it. Yeah.
The Steve Martin movie.
Steve Martin movie
There's
where
not
he's
like
got
some
12
sort
kids.
of acclaimed original we're missing out on here. But
No. I was like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess I've seen it once. She's like, oh, it just cracks me up. Me and my family love it.
okay, well, I mean, fair enough.
And then someone else said The Dark Knight Rises, which spoke to conversation. I was like, oh, Rises.
And your face
interesting.
went Dark Knight Rises. Oh,
Yeah, it's the favourite. Yeah, I can understand defending it and liking it, but to be the favourite when I assume they've seen Begins and Dark Knight.
So that whole trilogy for them just gets better and better.
And then I asked, oh, did you like The Batman, the Arpats one? And he was like, yeah, it's a bit long. And I was like, it is long. But I still thought it had a lot of...
I liked
it really good.
very much. I think it was really good.
It was really
It was
good.
long, though.
My dad saw it and he was like, that was a really artistic, proper crime film. And I was like, yeah.
It is. And then there's the whole bit with like the water dam at the end.
Which no one remembers.
No, I know, because it's just like, oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned this, but the
There's
city,
an entire
the
flood
city is
sequence.
surrounded by water.
Yeah.
What? What? Yeah, no, sorry, we didn't mention that.
Yeah. But I'm glad it looks more professional than it is. That's always the goal.
Yeah,
Be
absolutely.
professional too, but look more professional than you are always.
Turn up, dress for the job you want, right?
So you have your thing about walking quickly at work to look more busy and professional.
No, I meant
Or carrying something.
No, I meant the phrase, which is, you dress for the job you want, not the job you have, right? So we produce the show for the show we want, not the show we have.
And then separately, I was saying,
Separately,
you also have
yes,
your
I
thing
did
where-
say that if you ever wanted to look busy at work, you walk. You don't have to walk quickly. I mean, with purpose. Hold something: a pen, a clipboard, a laptop, If you hold an open laptop and walk around an office, ooh, you look busy.
He can't even close his laptop.
He needs to sit somewhere. He's got to call someone.
A model of a fighter jet. What? Doesn't matter.
Just looks busy.
Looks busy. You wouldn't ask a question in case that person
In the
drops
same way
it.
you would, if you went to like a building site, you would never question anyone in a high vis jacket or an airport. Anyone
Helmet.
with if you're carrying a ladder, pushing a wheelbarrow.
The ladder's famous. People sneak into films. They're just carrying
ladders.
Festivals even.
Yeah.
People have snuck into festivals with a ladder.
We get into the London Film Festival because we're carrying a ladder in a high vis
We would have
jacket.
invited you guys anyway.
No, got to do some maintenance work.
Me and you just watching Megalopolis with a ladder across. Sorry guys, can you mind holding that?
It's all part of the film experience.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah, Megalopolis.
Yeah, we just did a double take. Oh, sorry.
Do you remember when? Is it Zootopia or Zootropolis? What did we get? Because I don't know what's the original name of that movie. Is it Zootopia?
I call it Zootopia.
But I think it was released as Zootropolis here, was it?
What's the difference? Why would I not understand one or the other?
Exactly. What some sort of transatlantic language filter you got to go through?
There would be the difference between me buying a ticket.
Yeah.
Zootropolis, nah.
Zootopia, understandable. Sounds like Utopia.
More
Zootopia.
positive. Atropolis is sort of swarming and a little
city.
bit. It's a city. It's not negative, but it's not positive either.
No, just because it's like Metropolis, Zootropolis, just pick one.
Pick one. Exactly.
Pick one. Either works. Either way, I understand the film.
Also,
it's the zoo. They're all animals.
Are the Jason Batemans and the other? Are they having to reread every single line where they mention Zootopia?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll do that. whoa. That's Ben Stiller, actually.
Yeah.
Ben Stiller's like, hey,
Okay.
whoa,
David
hello.
Bateman is always like
David Bateman.
Jason
That's his
Bateman is
brother.
always concerned father. Okay.
Okay.
We're not going to do
buddy.
that. We're not going to do that. That's
No,
out of order.
That's not.
You should not have done
okay.
that. Okay.
We're going to
Yeah.
do that later. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Welcome to episode 143 of Pulp Kitchen.
Speaking of Megalopolis. What is it?
It's Megalopolis.
Megalopolis, which is a dumb word. Megalopolis. We just did a double take talking all about the pulled Francis Ford Coppola trailer.
Yeah.
Talked about new Michaela Cole show, Star Wars The Acolyte potentially being scrubbed from existence and the merch.
Bear Season 2 cast.
Go and check that out. That's available on Spotify or on Patreon. You can find that all.
Thank you very much to all those who are Patreon subscribers and supporters. We really appreciate it. Also got an exclusive film review on Patreon this week of Koyaanisqatsi. Koyaanisqatsi. What is Koyaanisqatsi? Well, if you don't know what it is, it's an experimental, seminal 1980s documentary that has been a landmark in filmmaking. And if you haven't seen it, you should see it. And afterwards, you should go check out my review.
And guys,
on
if
Patreon.
you only just decided to support us, you get access to every single episode of Double Take.
Yes.
All of the special features. I did one this week about how to save Star Wars. That will be there for you. Go and check it out. All the news, all the reactions, all the rumors, all the trailers, all the castings.
just
We're doing
so
it. We're
much.
doing it all on Double Take. Thank you for everyone who's joining onto that. It's really exciting to be there.
Yeah, it
This
is.
week, we're talking about
3 movies for
What?
you. Oh, you lucky bunch.
what are you going to do with the thumbnail.
Look, last week Alien Romulus just gave you a type 1.
Yeah.
Boom, 3 this time. Yes, last week Alien Romulus. If you want to check that out, do that.
Spoiler
We've got
cast as well.
spoiler cast as well. So much videos.
This week, Blink Twice, Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut, Channing Tatum stars.
We also have Belfast set hip hop Irish language movie Kneecap.
And Cuckoo, Hunter Schafer stars in Cuckoo
you
with the
saying-
German Dan Stevens.
Do you do Cuckoo or Cuckoo?
You said the same thing.
No, Cuckoo and Cuckoo.
You just said the
No,
same thing
the
again.
emphasis is different. There's
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo and Cuckoo.
Right, you're all listening to this.
I'm saying it differently.
You're saying cuckoo or
Yeah.
cuckoo.
You said it differently.
Right.
The emphasis
Cuckoo.
is different. There's
Cuckoo.
yeah, you're saying
Cuckoo.
You're putting the emphasis on coo, or you're putting the emphasis on cook.
Cuckoo.
I would say
on coo.
I would say cook. I would say cuckoo. Yeah, you say
There's-
cuckoo.
Sorry, I'm calling it. There's not enough difference for you to be making a thing. That's it. It's over for you now.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
I would say
I'm going to elongate the ooh.
Yeah, you do.
Cuckoo.
You almost do like a C apostrophe coo. Cuckoo.
Cuckoo. Yeah.
I would say cuckoo.
Yeah. Because
Like, he's cuckoo.
the cuckoo is we do hear cuckoos. They don't sound like cuckoo. It's more like so it's kind of a clicker
We've
screech.
said it so many times.
Yeah.
It's like an
Cuckoo.
abstract word now. Cuckoo.
Cuckooed. What is it if you're cuckooed?
No, that's cuckolded.
There we are.
You're cuckoo. You're crazy.
I was just cuckolded on my way into work. No, cuckooed.
I'm just a little bit cuckolded today, and I'm feeling a bit strange.
Think of it as a cuckoo day. You could say that.
Yeah, cuckoo crazy.
Like if you're frazzled.
Yeah, cuckoo.
Sorry, that idea is cuckoo.
When do people stop doing that? The wind up.
Yeah,
Whoa.
spinning.
Loopy
clocks,
loo.
Loopy. We'll get
Anyway,
into all of those.
so 3 movies for you, plus some emails, plus a game. You guys are hopefully going to have a really nice time. So let's go on and talk about the movies of this week.
let's do it.
That was really nice. I felt that at the back of my throat. In a really nice way.
Oh, yeah.
Like a tingle, like a nice burn. You don't seem. It's a compliment. It's a nice thing. You look
No,
concerned.
I'm focusing on the phenomenon you're experiencing.
It was,
I'm like,
it was
tingle like a
lovely.
burn.
And only goes up that far. It's really
Chest, face hugger just erupts at your chest. Acid. Okay. Cuckoo. Starring Hunter Schafer. This is a horror film from Neon, and I did know I was going to see a horror, but the film started, and I don't think I was aware it was like horrifying. Yeah, I thought it'd be scary, but it's actually scary.
yes. I don't really know anything about it other than I thought it'd be like mysterious.
No, it's horror. It's horror and it's scary. And
Okay.
it has a scary opening sequence, and I was a little bit just like I was on my phone like waiting for the ads to go, and it starts, and I was like, I'm immediately scared. I'm watching a scary film. My headspace was not ready for a scary film, but here we are nonetheless. Hunter Schafer stars in Cuckoo, plays a 17-year-old named Gretchen.
A
who
70.
17-year-old,
Thank
sorry,
you.
17-year-old named Gretchen, who against her, sort of unhappy to be leaving America to go and follow her father, who's divorced from her mother, to a very remote region of the Bavarian Alps. Why is that funny?
It's just like such a movie
Spin the
premise.
globe,
It's just like, oh, I'm sorry, honey. I'm separated from your mother. We're actually going to live in a very remote region of the Bavarian
They're not
Alps.
living. They're going to check out this twinkly cabin resort.
Right.
The father is developing a new style of hotel and is greeted by a very overly smiley and German Dan Stevens, who's overly creepy, and greets them. And there's something's immediately off with him. And Gretchen just doesn't like him at all. He keeps calling her Gretchen or like Gretchen, and it's like never gets her name right. She's like, it's Gretchen. This film from the get-go there's no sort of like horror movie foreplay where we're easing into the idea that maybe it's not mysterious. Straight away, something's wrong and weird goings-on start to happen. She actually in the meantime, accepts a job at the reception of the hotel to like earn a little bit of extra money. And all the time she's leaving her mother voicemails saying, I really shouldn't have come here. I really miss you. Please, can I come home? I really don't like it here. And these weird happenings start to go on at this twinkly cabin resort. It's also, it's surrounded by these mountains. It's very much like a prison of a sort of terrestrial bowl where like you can't escape because to leave would be to go out these mountains. Beautiful Alps. And these weird things start happening where young women walk into reception in the middle of the night and start spontaneously vomiting all over the floor. There's a lot of the body horror of this film, and Hunter Schafer's character, as the film goes on, gets more and more injured and injected and stapled together as she encounters this monster. And this monster is in the form of a woman wearing these white Kurt Cobain Saint Laurent oval glasses. You know those classic white oval glasses, but with these red eyes that come through. And there's this sound that erupts from the woodland around it. And in that moment where the sound happens, characters are stuck in a time loop where they will do the same thing over again for about 6 or 7 seconds and repeat it. And it takes them a few times, almost like this deja vu time loop. And while they're stuck in that time loop, the monster can move closer and closer towards them.
This is sounding quite a scary movie.
And it was scary. I'm really pleased to say this film was terrifying. Every time that monster's on screen, ridiculous as it sounds and kind of looks, brilliantly haunting. There's a very, very good scare on a bicycle where Hunter Schafer's riding back from her job at the reception through the dark paths, which are lit by these street lights. And it's a brilliant play on shadows where she's looking at the shadow of her bicycle that's moving as she goes past the lights. And when she goes past one of the lights, she sees the shadow of a hand running after the bicycle cut behind. This thing's chasing her. This monster was really scary. And I was really uncomfortable in a very good way. The problem with the film is that it really could have done with being more abstract, because the more the plot revealed itself to me, the more weird and wacky and nonsensical it became. And the whole ending of it was a little bit cumbersome and maybe a bit rushed, and I didn't really follow it, and I'm not sure I actually cared. Do you remember when I reviewed The First Omen?
Yes.
And I said, it's actually a really decent, scary film, and it's a shame it felt so obligated to stitch itself back to the original Omen, a film I'm like not that attached to.
Yeah.
And you're actually doing quite a good job just scaring me in your own right without being an Omen film. I kind of feel like the same applies for this. You could have actually done better by alluding to something more darker than trying to reveal the mystery of its monster. The questions you're asking maybe were more interesting than the answers in the end. And it felt a little bit baggy, but all in all, Dan Stevens, nice and creepy, speaking lots of German, being very strange. There's even a moment when she's with her father and his wife, and she's asked a question like, why can't we just leave? And Dan Stevens says, because this is where you are meant to be. And she just goes, all right, is nobody else going to acknowledge that that's a really strange thing to say? Like, can we not just leave? So it is a little bit aware that its premise is a bit silly, but dark, scary. There's kind of this idea of like, you know, controlling women in the ownership of their bodies and how they're manipulated. There's some idea there, but I'm not sure I'm that interested in pursuing it much further than that. But good fun, a good scare, great horror sequences.
Directed by?
It is directed by Tillman Singer.
Tillman
Singer.
Sorry,
who
Tillman.
did Luz in 2018, and I think the events at Mr. Yamato's Alpine residence. I think that's probably a short.
Yes. Nothing rings a bell. Well, quite intriguing then.
So interesting, great horror bones in
What's
there.
better, that or Immaculate?
Immaculate.
You sound just about sure.
Yeah, Immaculate. I thought was.
I think it was similar
would
kind
be
of thing.
worse. Immaculate. Did you see Immaculate in the
No.
end? Yeah, Immaculate's better.
That was James's review of Cuckoo. Please let us know your thoughts to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com if you've seen it. In fact, I do believe we do have some comments from Harry on the Patreon. Harry, one of our VIPs, who has seen Cuckoo
Salute you, sir.
and says,
Can we get this man a coconut water?
Harry has written into the VIP thread on Patreon. He says, "Hi guys, are you going to watch Cuckoo? Have you even heard of it? Due to its release in late August, starring Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens, it was my cinema secret screening recently, and I was lucky enough to watch it. I love that when you go and you don't know what this film's going to be. It was a missed opportunity, in my opinion. The film refuses to dive into the sheer horror. It clearly finds success in the horror scenes, namely 3 of them, but the film feels obliged to keep expositing about other things as the film goes on.
Yeah.
I've never heard of exposition being used in that.
Expositing.
I've expositing. Excuse me while I exposit.
Exposit.
Just step around that. I've
Where's
just
George?
exposited.
He's just expositing in the other room.
Yeah, I see. Poor guy.
Don't disturb him.
No, just it's a real mess. I only want to comment on the horror aspect as this is where the film excels. But those scenes are few and far between. Other than that, this psychological thriller fails to capture an audience while forgetting what it tries to stand for, namely the finale of this film, which is all over the place. Hunter Schafer is brilliant, but does phone in a performance that is seen too much in this type of psychological horror, an angsty teen.
Right, okay.
The mystery gets cut with a blunt knife, in my opinion, in so becoming a rather bland film. A film I have no interest in seeing again, but I'm fascinated to hear what you think. Well, there you go, Harry. James has reviewed it for you.
There's something quite smart about this idea of like a monster that it traps you in a 5-second loop.
Yes, I like
and
that.
you are aware you're stuck doing the same thing, but while you're repeating the same movement, it is getting closer. There's quite a fun thing there. Yeah.
Well, that was Cuckoo.
Cuckoo.
Cuckoo!
George Bevan writes in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, just like you can, and she says, guys, have you seen Kneecap? It was showing at a few festivals and was wondering if you guys had gotten the chance to see it yet. I'm heading to the Irish cinema premiere on Wednesday, this is a couple of weeks ago, and I'd be really intrigued to hear your thoughts on it when you do get a chance. It's Ireland's nomination for Best International Feature for the Oscars this year, which is great, as the film is predominantly in the Irish language. Bevan's very well connected. She seems like she's going to premieres and screenings. She's kind of a big name on campus of
The Irish film industry.
the Irish film industry. She's going places. We're watching you, Bevan. George, we have seen Kneecap.
I look forward to going to the Irish Oscars as a special guest.
Yeah. Hosting. We've both seen Kneecap.
Yes,
Kneecap.
we have both seen Kneecap now, which is great. A lot of buzz around it. We received a couple of emails about it, including Bevan's beforehand, which we'll read out. And I was chatting to someone on Friday night, and they said, "Oh, I caught a double bill, and one of the films I saw was Kneecap. I think this is Lloyd. If you're listening, nice to meet you." And he said, "Yeah, you got to check it out." I said, "Okay, I'll make time. We'll do it."
So it's directed and co-written by Rich Pepiat, who's done Short Backseat Driver, a series called Super Shoppers, but nothing I've seen. And it is written by the members of the real-life Northern Irish band Kneecap.
Yeah.
This story is set in the period leading up to 2017, where there was a point of contention of the Irish Language Act as to whether or not they were going to continue to acknowledge Irish as a language, and this created a huge amount of debate and divided a lot of people in Northern Ireland, of which only 8,000 people, I think, or maybe at the time the film was set, were speaking that language. And one of our characters in this film is JJ, who is a school teacher who tries to teach Irish to a school in Northern Ireland, but it's not very good, because all of the textbooks are writing about farming and old things that nobody ever talks about. What the kids are really into is hip hop. He also sort of moonlights as an Irish language interpreter, and he
Yeah, I think so.
By
yeah,
like
almost
accident.
I almost thought it was just that one time, and then he just kind of gets pulled in through.
His wife
circumstances.
is sort of
a
leading
political
activist for sort of
Irish language rights. Yeah,
for sort of keeping the Irish language rights and protecting the language. And in the middle of the night, gets drawn in to be an interpreter for Mo, who has been held up by the police, is refusing to speak English to the chief of police, and he's brought in to sort of interpret. And he discovers this notebook, of which there's like a whole tab of acid in one of the pages, but also are lyrics written in Irish language that are rhyming and are parts of that are just basically like rhymed poems. And he manages to get a hold of this diary, and in his garage starts producing beats and raps to the verses written to rap with it. Nisha and Mo are friends who are very much into the party raving scene. They deal drugs, much to the dismay of their parents. And Nisha's father, played by Michael Fassbender, was a person who fought in the Troubles and who at one point faked his death in order to run away from the police and always raised them to speak in the Irish language. And he said something like every word of Irish spelt is a bullet in the fight against the British.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's important to speak.
Every single Irish word spoken.
Word spoken. And so what ends up happening is that they start to play very small gigs, and through social media and like a growing sort of prevalence of people being aware of their music in the town, it spreads to this musically politicized movement to protect the Irish language. And JJ starts realizing that the young kids that he's teaching are discovering the music that he has produced. He wears a woolen balaclava of the Republic of Ireland flag, and it's very politicized music. It's a real story about how hip hop culture for African Americans was seen as this counter protest to mainstream culture, and they were saying, well, why can't this work for Northern Ireland? There's definitely elements of sort of cult music classic. It's actually one of the better music biopics I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like, to bring up that conversation.
Because also we should say they're playing. This is a real life story,
and these guys are playing themselves.
Yeah.
It's based on a true story. Elements of train spotting in there.
Yeah, totally.
But George, Kneecap, how did you get on with it?
I thought it was wonderful. What a wonderful movie. And even though that sounds like a lot of setup and plot and exposition, and like it's a very, very specific story, but like it's so interesting and so refreshing. It's people, it's politics, it's culture, it's history, it's identity, and it's rendered in this very, very specific story, which I love. I love the fact you're pulled into this incredibly complex history and complex culture, but like you're fully informed in it, and it's just a wonderful use of film, the medium of film and music, to take a hugely complex issue, which is basically the history of Northern Ireland and the history of Ireland as well, the relationship between the two, and the history of the relationship with Britain as well over hundreds of years, and deliver that in a way that's through comedy and music, and is insightful and cheeky and funny and energetic. And I mean, honestly, you said Trainspotting there were moments I thought, wow, this has the real energy of Trainspotting,
like cult classic.
Yeah, immediate. Real cult classic. It's funny, it's mean, it's serious, but also it's got this little twinkle in its eye. It's a bit like the music they make, which is kind of in your face, but also with a little rise.
Music, by the way, very aggressive, very sort of lots of references to drugs and sex.
And I think I'm no scholar of Northern Irish and Irish history. But
had you heard of them, by the way, Kneecap?
Kneecap, no, I haven't. Never heard of them.
I'd heard of their presence at Glastonbury. I've always heard that they did really good sets, but I'd never encountered them just because you don't always get around to see it.
But I'm no scholar of this particular chapter of history. But like even I could pick up on and follow the beats of the story. But I do wonder as well, like more internationally, how people will follow this, because there are words and language used that we as English people can pick up and understand because we're adjacent to the history. But just really fun, and honestly, the fact that they play themselves is a marvel, because
and they're brilliant.
If you'd said to me, if their thing came up at the end and showed the real Kneecap and been like, oh, these actors played these people, I would have believed it.
And then the film in the credits, it shows them like playing to huge music festivals, shots of them at Glastonbury, shots of them performing to like sold out arenas, and it really I wonder, because it's them as well that you've seen in the film for the last 100 minutes. You're like, oh my god, there they are doing it. It really adds to it, and they're brilliant playing themselves.
They're so good, and this idea, I love it. Like, on the face of it, it's a story about people trying to start a band. It's a hip hop trio, but it's not. It's about how much language is tied to your identity. About it's kind of like post-colonial arguments about the legacy of Britain's history and the effect on the island of Ireland, and just so brilliant to see it. A movie 80% of which is like in the Irish language. Yeah. And a lovely, discreet, minimal side performance by Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Who doesn't intrude on it with his star power.
Yeah.
Kills it always.
Absolutely
always
nails
kills
it. It's brilliant.
But just enough on the side bit. I think there's moments that are really funny. I think it's really one of the most interesting films this year.
I absolutely loved it. I said it's probably the best biopic I've seen in a really long time. Musical biopic, about like telling a story
because it's about something bigger. Isn't
it's about something bigger. What I really loved is how it captured the sense that they called themselves they were the ceasefire generation. They themselves didn't fight in the Troubles, but they nonetheless inherit the paranoia and the anxiety that came with that, and it still forms a huge part of their identity. And it wasn't necessarily their fight, but nonetheless they take on the burden, and their way of expressing that is through music, and their way of being active and expressing their identity. And I think that was so wonderfully captured. That sense I think would be really hard to articulate for a film, and it actually made me think of Armageddon Time with Anthony Hopkins and Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway, about not being about
like
the Holocaust or Reagan's America, but you see the baggage of history being carried from the characters it's actually about, which in that case was about kids, or in this case it's about these young people. I just thought it was so wicked smart and vibrant and quippy and funny. The editing's brilliant. The lyrics, when the songs are spoken in Native Irish, they're written out in white lines of cocaine or ketamine, and it's just part of their personality. And it's just fantastic. I actually left the screening and texted 3 of my mates who aren't hugely into films, being like, I think you'll really like this. It's a really approachable film. If you find, I don't know, some other films a bit stuffy and boring, and if you're not into the idea of like a stuffy history film about Irish conflict, Northern Irish conflict, I think this is really, really up the street.
Because I agree with everything you just said, but there's also this great subplot about his Mo's relationship with women, about how like whenever he sleeps with women who have a Union Jack in their bedroom and have a picture of the Queen, like, very much British culture informed. Like, and it's like really, really funny. And like, that's a great way of having that debate, that conversation about stuff that's still really serious and really important. I learned more about Belfast in this than the movie Belfast.
100%.
Like, Kenneth Branagh's movie Belfast seems so
indulgent.
Safe, cookie cutter bullshit, frankly. Like, and completely indulgent. And just what I love, this Kneecap, this movie opens with, it says,
car bombs.
Yeah, it literally says, every story about Belfast begins the same way, and
5
it's troubles.
shots of things,
and he says, not this one though. And I'm like, and I've
because it's adjacent to it. It's actually not about the Troubles itself. It's about the generation afterwards.
And it's really, really interesting and educational, and like it's so exciting.
A little bit nasty as well.
Yeah, oh god, there's some real nastiness and meanness.
The performances are just fantastic. There was I never got a sense that, well, they're not actors. They're sort of
Never.
Granted, they're playing themselves, but I thought all of them just brilliant, and they're able to match Michael Fassbender when he turns up.
Oh yeah,
God, Fassbender's good.
There's a great sort of I don't want to talk too much about it, but there's a scene, the phone box scene.
Yes.
And this great little juxtaposition with Fassbender and Nisha. Great moments of humour. I mean, we kind of was diffusive about it. I mean, did you find it maybe it went on a bit too long, perhaps? I mean, it's only an hour and 45, but...
It didn't, but...
Okay, fine, maybe that was just me, but I on the whole, great thumbs up. Really exciting, really different. If you want something that's new anyway,
it's about so many things like music and culture and protest, and how like the more you try
really
to
sink your teeth into this,
the more you, because there's one really big part of the film is that because so much of their music is referencing drugs and violence, the movement itself didn't want that to become the poster child of protecting the Irish language, because it's not actually the best representation of what we want to maintain. But it was almost this idea: the more you try and suppress an idea, the more you try and subdue it, the more prevalent it becomes, and it's still about like times evolving, culture evolving.
And JJ, the teacher, uses this example. He says like Irish language is just like this sort of old thing that's being preserved, like a dodo, like the last dodo. It's behind glass, and everyone looks at it and sort of moves on. But it's like we want to be able to expand it and use it, and and then there's this line in the movie where it says like, language builds stories build like country, nations, and nations build people, or something like that. It's brilliant. We've had a couple of emails about Kneecap as well, because people are really passionate about it. This first one is from Jacob, who says, "Hi James and George and James. Just a quick one from a long-time listener to say how much I love the pod, and always look forward to sitting down and listening to your thoughts and feelings about all things film and TV. Thank you. It really does feel like sitting down with 2 friends and having a good old chat and about our favourite pastime. So long may it continue. Thank you." He says, I'm halfway through episode 139 when you mentioned a tendency for August to be a bad month for film releases. While I tend to agree with you, I wanted to let you know about an absolute scorcher I saw last week. As an Odeon Limitless member, other cinemas are available, I got to attend a screen unseen event. Again, it's like with the Cuckoo review as well. You get these mystery ones. which for those who don't know is a chance to see an upcoming release early, but the catch is that you don't know what it's going to be.
Nice.
I was initially concerned when the title came up saying Kneecap, which is a film I've heard or seen absolutely nothing about, not knowing what to expect, but I was absolutely blown away by this scintillating, joyful, and surprisingly political film.
Yeah.
Set in Belfast, the story follows two guys in the early 20s, as we just talked about. It is a vivid and truly entertaining journey about absolutely fizzing with energy and delivered with a real distinct style. It is full of solid performances, direction, cinematography, and dialogue, and while it is mostly presented as a light-hearted film that is easy to consume, it is driven by a deeply political story of culture, language, and identity in modern-day Northern Ireland. I cannot recommend it enough, and I think it would make an excellent companion piece to the BBC docuseries Once Upon a Time in Northern Ireland. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on Kneecap. If you get a chance to see it, keep up the good work. Jacob from Coventry.
Adam also writes in and says, "Hi James and George, I hope you guys are well. Loving the pod as usual, and it was great to see you both at the quiz. Likewise."
Yes.
I thought I'd share my thoughts on Kneecap after I believe Bevan mentioned it in an email last episode. Loving this email, just symbiosis, that the sirens are leading into each other.
So we had already read out Bevan's email then.
Yeah, that was good. It's a fantastic... Oh, yeah.
You read it out twice.
It's a fantastic musical comedy biopic about a hip-hop trio from Belfast. They rap in their native Irish language to make a statement and defend the use of it, despite the language being banned and heavily politicised. I saw it as a screen unseen a few weeks ago. Everyone where was our invite? Yeah. And the audience was almost completely full. Not a minute goes without a laugh, and the music will have you bouncing in your seat. There's a really cheeky, unique flair to Kneecap via its kinetic visuals and hilarious voiceover. What really brings it all together is the sincerity it treats the story with. I left the showing feeling creatively inspired and appreciated the powerful theme of reclaiming and celebrating heritage. Michael Fassbender is in there, but the three leads are excellent.
Yes.
I was amazed to learn that Kneecap members are all playing themselves.
Yeah.
You'd think they were professional actors. Sorry for the long email. You two are smashing it. All the best. Adam.
Excellent. I mean, it really is. You can hear James and I talk about it. We're really fired up about it. It is just one of those things you see something very refreshing and new and exciting. And again, being able to talk about really serious things is such a fun, exciting way. And also, even though we're not connected to the story, but I'm sure, like from a Northern Irish perspective, what a great way about talking about culture and history in a new way, moving the conversation on.
Cinema is a tool to get people to understand that so much better, especially in a modern context. People's knowledge of it might be actually sort of slightly backdated.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think our generation is quite interesting as well because, like, we grew up just, we were Good Friday Agreement signed 1998. We're kind of like 97, was it? But either way, we are post generation, and so I think it's very much something I hear my parents talk about, but not something we've actually ever encountered. We just kind of accepted as the status quo. But yeah, really, really great.
Really good, guys. Did you say the email? Send us your thoughts. hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. Moving on.
Yeah. And our final movie for today is Blink Twice. Blink Twice, the movie directorial debut from Zoe Kravitz, co-written by Zoe Kravitz as well, and E.T. Feigenbaum.
It's back. Use the force. It just does that. It'll do a second.
Sorry, we're talking about the TV behind me, which will flash the logo, and sometimes it will go off, but I pointed at it and it came back.
Honestly, fuck that TV. I can't wait to get rid of it.
If you are selling a brand new TV and would like to donate it to us,
LG, Samsung, please get in touch. I'd like a new television. No OLED, 55 inches.
You know what? It's funny because I said
4K,
Blink twice in the movie Blink. The TV Blink behind me.
Oh, you know the film like Blink Twice if I'm in trouble.
Anyway, thank you. Blink Twice, starring a great cast actually of Naomi Ackie, Channing Tatum, also some like old school actors now I love it. Christian Slater, Gina Davis, Carl McLaughlin,
Haley Joel Osment.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he's in there.
He's the I See Dead People kid.
Adria Iona from Hitman. Yep. Blink Twice follows Naomi Ackie and Naomi Ackie, who is a waitress at a sort of a major corporate event. And the film opens with her in her sort of very rundown apartment, doom scrolling on the toilet, looking at news footage of Slater King, who is played by Channing Tatum, this wealthy, mysterious billionaire who's something has happened in his story where he's had to sort of take a step back and apologize for some actions and
been cancelled.
And he's basically been cancelled, but he's also sort of rehabilitated his image by saying, "Well, I now live on my own private island and I grow my own vegetables and it's wonderful." And then I will just say there's this very random sequence where she's watching, this is in the first minute.
Yeah.
She's watching an interview that Channing Tatum's character has given about this, and it's filmed in like a white void And I was
Yeah.
like, where is this?
Are you
Is this
selling
a
the new
podcast?
iPad?
Yeah, is this a podcast he's on? A chat show? It
Yeah.
really felt like they got to the cutting room floor and were like, we need, oh my God, that exposition bit, we haven't filmed it. Get 2 red chairs. It looks like the scene in The Matrix.
You'd have thought they could have done sort of Vanity Fair style backdrop in a studio for a day.
But do you know what? You're just having, like, no piece of interview content on the internet is
Like
filmed
when
in a
Neo
white
gets his
void.
guns in The Matrix.
It literally filmed like, anyway, by the way. We then cut, and she is actually working at a charity philanthropic event, which is run by Slater King, who I guess is now uncancelled. But anyway,
The kind of charity event where it definitely costs more to put the event on than the money they raise.
oh yeah,
Like
totally.
one of those.
Which is like at some sort of amazing, museum, and Naomi Aki and her flatmate, played by Elias Shawkat, are working there as waitresses, and we hear through a bit of dialogue that actually Naomi Aki worked the same event last year and actually had a little conversation with Slater King. So you get this sense of this kind of mild infatuation she has with him, and then you saw that in the way she was doom scrolling with him as well. Elias Shawkat, takes Naomi Aki aside and says, "Hey, I've got these," and they've snuck 2 ball gown dresses into the event, and they sneak in and immerse themselves as guests of this party. And sure enough, they soon enough strike up a conversation with Slater King, played by Channing Tatum, and they are quickly drawn into his world. And they have this wonderful evening of laughter and drinks and ha ha ha. And then before you know it, the morning comes, and the billionaires are all heading off to his island. And he says, "Well, guys, why didn't you come with me?" And they go, "Yes," and they're squirreled away, and off they go to this tropical island. I will say at this point, I think the best way to just frame this story is that it is very much like a fairy tale. This is a Prince Charming takes you off to a magical, mystical land, because this is a film that delves in simplicity. And that's how I kind of took it. This is a kind of mysterious, poisoned fairy tale. So they go to his tropical island with his posse of people, like I said, Christian Slater, Haley Joel Osment, Gina Davis, and you get there, and it's paradise. It is basically paradise. You have to put your phone away. You have to hide that. You have this gorgeous red Spanish colonial villa. You have pool. You have drugs. You have music. It is
Topped up champagne
or
every
you
night.
can, for all intents and purposes, a gorgeous, gorgeous time with lots of partying. It is paradise, and obviously Naomi Aki is angling at some point to get some sort of real connection with Channing Tatum's character. However, of course, this is a movie and this is a mystery. There is something slightly off about the island. What is it? Who knows? They're too busy partying it, but there is something strange. Sort of the way that the housekeepers sort of look at the guests, the way they engage with them. There's something happening with snakes in the garden, the way the items are found. Yeah, items are found with no explanation.
Dirt under the fingernails.
Injuries start to appear. It's very, very strange. And of course, it is a mystery, so there is a secret at its heart. We will not say any more because we don't want to spoil it. But that is essentially it. It is kind of like a fairy tale. Where they've been taken to this mystery place. I think I've explained enough.
Yeah.
I think I can. I'm trying to I'm really trying to tiptoe around any major spoiler material.
The trailer very much tells you something's up.
Yes.
The film very quickly
It's a
is
mystery.
telling you.
Oh yeah, it's not they go to
something's
Paradise
very
Island.
wrong.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's not a rom-com either.
Yeah.
There you go.
So Blink Twice. I think really not interesting to see Zoe Kravitz come out of the gate with this directorial debut, co-written. Immediately, I think the visuals of it are really enticing and exciting. It's a very, very engaging watch. It's beautiful, saturated, anamorphic frame, loads of symmetry, lovely sort of. There's every night they're doing drugs and drinking, and so their memory is sketchy at the best of times.
Yeah.
But obviously, as more sort of minor amnesia start to occur, the edges of the film stock, or not film stock, of the frame are sort of blurred and wonky and a little bit off. And so I really enjoyed that. She got a really keen eye for sort of the visual language of tropical, contrasting that with something being very sinister and very wrong. I thought Channing Tatum was brilliant in this. I really think so.
Sorry, because what's funny is James and I sat down, we were waiting to watch this film. And
We're
you
like,
and I
what
said,
is Channing Tatum? Because he's on the poster with the big
we were
camera.
like, he needs something. He needs a new break, and this is it.
Actually, it's one of the best performances I've seen him in, like regardless. He's got this really great... So our real life ones, have a sort of awkward charm to them where they're very charming because they're very successful in business, but they're also very strange and very awkward. And Channing Tatum, obviously very good looking, has got his own weird version of brilliance and charm. And I think as an actor, he's shown to me that he's able to carry a lot more darkness than I think we would have given him credit for. And I think he's really a really interesting watch in this particular scene towards the end where sort of it's an unbroken shot where I was like, you know what, that was brilliant. And I think you've really done well there to do it. I think all the other casts are great. I think Adria Arjona is just fantastic and her chemistry with Naomi Aki is really good. So I had a great time watching it. And leaving the film, I really wasn't sure what I thought about it. And I was like on my bike home, like thinking like, where does this go? Because its main idea is definitely pointed and very interesting. And there is a sort of grand point to be made about sort of ultra wealthy people, rich male white privilege. And for me, as much as I thought that was interesting, the main conceit of the film, the main idea, I think just stopped at first base. And it casts an idea net that's an ocean wide. But after I really think about it, I think it was just a couple of centimeters deep. I almost feel like we got to the revelation of what this film's about, and I thought interesting, and it just didn't evolve it. It's very similar to films like Get Out, The Glass Onion, Knives Out Mystery, and even Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool, which is a film from, I think, just over a year ago, which I can't say I got on with massively, but this sort of eat the rich, everything's a little bit wonky and mysterious and my memory's faded. It did actually remind me of that. And I just left the screening thinking, you've taken on this huge topic, and I just don't think you engaged with it enough for me to take away with something I didn't already know. It's like I had a great time, but what the film had to say was just lacking a little bit for me. But otherwise, very exciting, very fun. It took its idea, but I just wasn't challenged or interested enough beyond that.
It's interesting because I think I enjoyed it slightly more, and I think I kind of saw it in a slightly different way, which is that, I mean, I agree with everything, all the positive things you said so far, and I do agree that it's not a perfect movie. For me, this film is kind of defined by like 4 S's. It's sexy, it's sinister, it's simple, and it's also a little bit silly as well, and that's fine. And I kind of felt from the opening 5 minutes, I knew that this was going to be quite a kind of simple construction. Like with the fairy tale thing, I keep saying that because it's not about extra plot. You're not meant to know a lot of backstory. It's very much hyper-focused, and that's the kind of tale it weaves. I think that when it gets to the revelation, actually, I don't look at this film as trying to have a discussion about that topic necessarily, which I have seen some people be like, well, you should talk about it. But when it got to the revelation, I went, yeah, that actually makes sense, that these people and that would happen, and this is why this is happening. I was like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, put it this way, when I went home and I was talking to someone about it, they were like, oh, so it's a bit like, and they named a really real life case that's very similar. And I was like, yes, it's basically exactly that. I think, so I'm okay with the way it ends up. I don't think for me, I didn't need the film to then discuss that in detail. I liked the kind of shock of, oh, this is what it is, and watching the characters kind of deal with that. I agree. I love Adria Iona and Naomi Aki together. I think Zoe Kravitz is really impressive as a director here, and I really love to see her do something more. It's very slick. I think she understands, a bit like how a lot of directors have understood the shock potential of Anya Taylor-Joy's face. You know, a lot of movies are Anya Taylor-Joy looking shocked, like in Split, The Witch. It's all of her, and I think in the same way that like Zoe Kravitz knows the gothic potential of Naomi Aki's face, and there's lots of shots of her like sort of straining and really expressive with like light cast across her face. And I enjoyed that. I think there's something really interesting happening with color as well. That like the film, when they get to this Paradise Island, it's like this repeated, oversaturated primary color aesthetic of the bright
colours of the houses,
the bright red of the house. You've got this blue of the kind of face mask they wear at some point, and the blue of the pool, and then you've got this yellow, the yellow towels. And then what's interesting is that the scene in which the characters develop a little bit of knowledge and expand a little bit is that Naomi Aki's wearing a lilac top and Adria Iona is wearing a green top, and it's like it's subtly introducing these other colours to build complexity, which I really liked. I think also that I think there's something happening with. I think Zoe Kravitz is actually doing something with the male gaze that I thought was quite interesting. What I mean is that there's a shot in this film where an extended shot, a lingering shot of Adria Iona getting out of a swimming pool. And when it happened, I thought that's really strange to have that in this film. This is a film directed by a woman and co-written by a woman, and you have quite a leery, superfluous kind of shot of her body getting out of a swimming pool. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, why has Zoe Kravitz done that? And I actually think it's like, she's kind of framing every single thing you see in the movie and our association of everything that is successful and wealthy and joyous is kind of tainted and infected by the male gaze. And I think then a switcheroo happens like towards the last third of the movie, of that kind of gaze is kind of, that veil is lifted. And I thought that was quite clever, and I like the way she's kind of tied the two things together. It's like how much of our perception of what paradise is so informed by a man's perspective.
Sure.
Anyway, it's got a great soundtrack as well. Absolutely banging. Yeah. I think it's kind of, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the kind of the thrills and the scares. I'm not looking for like a Get Out style debate about a bigger thing. You know, that is what makes Get Out a great movie. It's about a much larger topic and it really engages with that. I kind of saw this much more as a kind of simpler thriller with a kind of little sharp twist put in there.
Right.
But I think the last 90 seconds are rough. You did not need to do that last minute and a half. Really tacked on, really rushed.
I know what you mean.
It could have ended 90 seconds before that. But yeah, I was impressed. I came out away thinking Channing Tatum, as you say, great, but also I'd love to see Zoe Kravitz, what she does next.
Did you know it was originally going to be called Pussy Island, but she was forced to change the title? Wow. Pussy Island, I guess.
I guess it's connotations.
And it also almost like bit of a, it sort of leads a bit more to the plot than I think you'd like from than Blink Twice. Because in Blink Twice, there's multiple times someone says, "Oh, blink twice if I'm in danger."
Yeah.
And there's loads of great details. Like the first scene is her doom scrolling, and her eyes aren't blinking. And as soon as Slater King comes on screen, she double blinks, and it's obviously like the title's called Blink Twice. I do think I would look forward to rewatching it now I know how it ends, and I bet there's loads of stuff I wouldn't have picked up on. But I just, engaging with the topic as a whole, I think I did want something a bit more that wasn't, it gets to make this grand point. And we are watching a film in 2024, post 2017 Me Too. And I'm not saying it has to tackle that all in its runtime, but within the last 25 minutes where it's, we're aware of what's going on, I did feel like I was a little bit waiting for it to finish because I didn't think it was going to do something much deeper than what it was showing off. I agree with you on all the little moments. I think there's loads of great character things there.
But is it not enough just to have that little twist moment and be like, that's the reality of what's happening? And then you just have to.
It's making such a statement about that specific thing. Maybe something we can talk about more in a spoiler cast, but I still enjoyed it, and it's scintillating. And
I think for me, it's like I didn't think it needed to explain that any further because I was like, that thing does happen, and that thing could happen and would happen in this scenario.
To me, like the moment where Channing Tatum says all of those things in that scene was where my interest peaked in the final third. Because here we're tackling something different about correcting behavior and public apology. Yeah. That was one of the more interesting parts of the film, and it's a great performance from him as well. But I would like to rewatch it. I'd take Talia to see it. I think it would more crystallize my opinions on the film.
I think you'd have. I think I'm glad you said you actually had because I couldn't read your body language in the whole thing. I did think today I was going to turn up and you were going to say you absolutely hated it.
No, I didn't hate it. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, it's a good time.
It's more that afterwards I'm like, okay, well, what's this really saying? And I think the ideas are an ocean wide, but a couple of centimeters deep in some senses.
But a good watch.
Go and see it. Go and see it. It's good fun.
And I knew nothing going in. I didn't know the premise at all. All I know is that Channing Tatum had a yellow camera. On the poster. That's literally it. But yeah, great.
Go and see it. It's a good one to see with friends and to unpack and discuss.
There were nice little moments where, just in an audience experience, people sort of around us were going, "Oh,
yeah,
no!"
Nice little shock ones.
Nice little audience.
There's lots of I need to go and get this thing. We're distracting someone. Sound the signal. Good fun.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if Sirens will be divided on it. Please, as always, send in your thoughts to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us at the VIP tier on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Kneecap. Kneecap, that was Blink Twice.
Yeah, Blink Twice.
Technically was also Kneecap.
And Cuckoo.
Cool.
Let's get on with some emails.
George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you want to send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, you can do by emailing it to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, or you could support us on the VIP tier on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show, just like Adam did. Adam writes in. He actually wrote a little bit about Kneecap, which you've already reviewed, but he moves on to talk about Trap. He says, in less positive news, I risked a showing of Trap on Thursday night. I should have believed the poor reviews because, my goodness, it was tough to get through. There are occasional glimmers of fun in dialogue that swings between outrageously bad and laughably uncanny, but not once is anything believable. There are so many plot holes. Why is the constant taking place at about midday? Why is everyone leaving? It's so true. It's so true.
I've never seen... That's the kind of M. Night Shyamalan stuff that really bothers
it's
me.
in the middle of the day. It's like a matinee concert which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Why is everyone leaving the crowd all the time to buy merch mid-performance? So true.
Yeah.
Why was there no security at the doors? Instead, the police do distracting searches in the middle of the show. Yeah, the police are basically like in the arena looking at men of the certain profile and just taking them.
Oh, God.
Why didn't Lady Raven give so much as a glance to one of her many idiotic security guards? Yeah, it's something for the other part of the phone. But yeah, the daytime thing. And people are buying merch and just like in the confectionery area, like throughout the whole show, yeah, which like you'd have a handful of people doing that at a concert.
Logic is not M. Night Shyamalan.
I could go on, but frankly, I'd cry. Listeners, don't see it. At least you can laugh at Madam Web. Trap had my fists clenched with cringe.
Oh, God.
Finally, you've mentioned Johnny English a number of times in the podcast, and I've meant to write in about the movies loads of times. The first two are hilarious. I urge you to watch Johnny English Reborn if you haven't already. Supposedly, a fourth is underway. Big news for a big Rowan Atkinson fan like myself. Sorry for the long email. You two are smashing it. All the best, Adam. Thank you so much. I love Rowan Atkinson.
Yeah,
I think he's really good.
Johnny English, classic. We'll have to do a rewatch of that. Maybe on the Patreon again. We just do like a deep dive.
I can't tell if this is a terrible idea, but I just think another Mr. Bean would just be great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's still Mr. Bean when he's in his 60s now. Behind still do Mr. Bean.
I guess Mr. Bean.
I thought Mr. Bean's better in small doses, like short films.
I agree. Oh, yeah. I'd love like shorts, like sketches. Yeah, not necessarily like a Mr. Bean's Holiday too.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but Mr. Bean is an alien because he comes from.
I've always thought that. Yeah,
he's not human.
He falls from the thing. Thank you very much.
The soundtrack of Mr. Bean.
This next email is from Harvey, who writes in with films. Hello, both. Discovered your podcast a few weeks ago via TikTok, obviously, and have set out on a Pulp Kitchen odyssey, starting from episode 1, and I'm currently on episode 57, dated at the beginning of 2023. I like the fact that people begin us like a box set of like, oh, I'm going to start The Sopranos, or go back to the beginning.
Like this, I'll go back.
Instead of jumping in like with current films or whatever, they're like, no. To properly understand James and George, I must journey back.
It's like they're deep in one of the later seasons of Star Trek that they found on TV, and they're like, well, I'll just buy the box set and
just
go
from
back.
the beginning.
Thank you.
Hopefully, when I eventually catch up to modern day, I'll be listening to this email being read out on your most current episode. Harvey, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening to all of our episodes. Congratulations and welcome aboard. I thoroughly enjoy listening to you dissect and discuss films with interesting insight, interjected with humour and trivia along the way. That's a lot of alliteration for the letter I there, Harvey. My issue is, as a fellow cinephile, I struggle to articulate myself when speaking to friends /family /colleagues about whatever I've recently watched. Beyond me offering such fascinating insights such as, I really enjoyed it, it was well acted and I enjoyed the story, I don't seem to be able to offer much more in terms of depth. But when listening to the both of you, I find myself wishing that I could express myself in the same passionate way when discussing the film. Heck, maybe I'm just unintelligent and it's beyond me to do so, but would love to have any advice on how to better express myself when talking about a film. I love the podcast, even though I'm on 2023's episodes. I've no doubt the remainder will be of the same brilliant standard. Cheers, Harvey.
We've had this question a couple of times. It's always very sweet. I would always say practice communicating or writing about films if you feel like you want to be better about talking about
make
them.
Notes.
Yeah, make notes. It's always with writing, I think. Writing's like a muscle. You're either doing it actively or you're not, and you've got to get used to communicating that. And I think we've always found that we talk about film with our friends before we did this podcast. Not to such a same intensity. But yeah, I think practice. I'm definitely better than I was when we started.
Yeah, I would just say if you just look like in terms of steps, think. Okay, let's say your family member comes up to you and asks you about a film, you really want to give them a good opinion, but just they'd be like, okay, did you see the film? Yes. Did you like it? It's like a flow chart. Did you like it? Yes. What did you like about it? Oh, I liked this moment. Why did you like that moment? Oh, that moment was
Why did it
scary.
work?
Why was it scary? Oh, it was scary because of the use of practical effects or because of the use of the lighting. Great. Why did you go see it? Oh, I saw it because I really like the director and really like the actors in it. Did they live up to it? Yeah, the acting was great, but the directing was shoddy. Why was it shoddy? Oh, because actually it, was poorly edited together. I mean, that's editing, but, still just like ask yourself the questions all along the way and why and why and why and why and why.
There are tentpoles of like the presentation of films you can lean on. Like, did you like the way it was shot? Did it sound particularly interesting? Were the performances very good? And all of those spines of cinema, you should have something to say. You might not have something to say about sound, but sometimes this film might sound really interesting, and then that's something you really
just keep asking yourself the questions. Find your voice. You'll get there, Harvey.
Write notes. Write notes when you finish a film. What you like the raw subconscious.
I say you've got 24 hours to get your best notes down, by the way. That's what I've learned. If I leave it too long after a movie, let's say we're seeing a movie a week ahead of time, I've got to make sure I get my notes down the next day because otherwise it kind of fades away.
This next one is from David, who says, Dear George and James and George, I first became aware of your podcast back in May through one of the games you did on social media. Since then, I've been devouring your back catalogue, keeping up with the new episodes. I really enjoy your format and perspective on movies. I want to start by saying my mother raised my brother and I on a healthy diet of British comedy and romantic comedies, such as Blackadder, Thin Blue Line, and Monty Python's Flying Circus. Whenever we would sleep over at our grandmother's, she would always have Keeping Up Appearances on, and he's italicized all of the names.
Good formatting. Keeping Up Appearances. Wow.
It is on my vision board to travel to England one day or do a Europe trip of sorts. Oh, where did he say he's from? I didn't think he said where you're from. Oh, no, he does. I've been wanting to write in for a while, but wanted to have something original to say. Then I realised, as far as I know, you have yet to read an email aloud from someone who is from where I live. I'm writing to you from Portland, Oregon, in the United States.
West Coast.
There he is. It's between Washington and California. People often forget it's there between those two states on the West Coast.
I know. Isn't that where Starbucks started? No, that's Seattle. Sorry, forgive me. But Portlandia.
In my city, there's a huge film community filled with those beautiful older theatres. My favourite one is called Hollywood, which provides a link, Hollywood Theatre, which shows old movies throughout the year. In Portland, there is still a video rental store. It's called Movie Madness. There is memorabilia from movies adorned on the walls and films everywhere to check out. There is still a Blockbuster video somewhere.
I think it's in Alaska, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a museum. It's like a place people will visit. Yeah. There's films everywhere to check out. This girlfriend, my summer and I. My girlfriend and I started a new holiday tradition called Summerween, where we carved watermelons and watched Nightmare on Elm Street. We even cooked up hot dogs and wrapped them in dough like mummies. My question for the two of you is, what's your go-to spooky movie to watch during October? Thank you for the weekly podcast. I look forward to Wednesdays for new episodes. Hopefully one day you'll do a virtual version of the quiz show because I'd love to participate. Best, David. George, favourite spooky movie?
Well, just quickly, I'm just trying to think, what's the structural integrity of a watermelon if you carve it? Like, I don't know if it...
Are they hollowing it out?
I assume so. It's not just going to... Oh, unless because the red inside looks like blood.
Could be quite cool.
But the flies on that...
Have you seen the people that, like, peel the watermelon skin off the watermelon? It's like a whole round thing.
Oh. Yeah, I've seen a thing about, like, peeling strawberries as well, but who the hell's got time to do that? Favourite scary movie to watch during spooky season... I don't know. I've really been craving a rewatch of The Shining soon. And again, it's another thing I'd like to see in IMAX. I'd love to catch that and soak that up. Not that that's like the scariest movie I've ever seen, but that's a good... I kind of like sometimes with Halloween to watch like a kind of a slightly naffer, older-fashioned one, like, you know, like a Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 13th, kind of old school. Maybe, or like or not even naff, but just like a Amityville Horror, or like, not that I've seen that, like just kind of Poltergeist, something kind of retro-y that kind of feels like Blockbuster Video.
I don't habitually watch the same scary film in October, but if I was to gun to my head, I'd go, John Carpenter's Halloween for October.
Also, Halloween is much bigger in the States, guys. I'm just going to say that, like, I obviously, you know, all the supermarkets here do like doll up and they put the things up, but like, it's just not. It's so big in the States. Yeah,
they'd probably make more an event of like Halloween nights.
It's
than we
Halloween.
Do. It's just a good excuse for a party.
Lots of sugar. But thank you very much,
David,
for that email. Pleasure to hear from you and saying hi to. I've heard of Portland. I'd love to go to Portland. Of course. I'd actually would love to do a trip that starts in Vancouver, Canada, then goes all the way down through Washington State, Seattle, California, get into Mexico, Arizona, Texas, probably.
I've not done the West Coast.
I go even further, Central America and then Latin America. Go down like that,
Argentina, down to
Antarctica. Argentina, although Argentina's on the east.
I'm saying if you were to just drive the whole...
Antarctica round the top, round the bottom up to.
At that point, is it top or bottom?
Who's
it
to say?
the top and the bottom. Yeah.
Thanks very much. This next email is from Scott about Alien Romulus, and this is a very particular type of email.
Yeah.
Scott has written this email about Alien Romulus, which we reviewed last week, in the format of a captain's log, like mission log, and he's written it he put the font is the the courier font. And
It feels wrong to not be reading it on a curved CRT monitor. Yeah.
Have it appear like that. So I'm going to do my best to honour the format of Scott's email. Bear with me. Subject: observational report, longitudinal engagement and film analysis, Pulp Kitchen case study. 2. Lead researchers James and George and James.
Thank you.
The objective. This report aims to document the sustained engagement of a subject with the Pulp Kitchen auditory and visual stimuli, with a focus on their response to the episode discussing Alien Romulus. Additionally, it highlights the subject's professional involvement in the cinematic industry. How long did it take you to do this, Scott? Because I love it.
Scott's prime directive was to write an email, and it's the only way you knew how. It's also, I appreciate as someone used to write up studies, your objective, background, methodology, your evidence, conclusion, acknowledgements.
Background. The subject, based in Sydney, Australia, lovely, good to see you, has been a consistent consumer of Pulp Kitchen content since the early food days of the programme. Notably, this is one of only 2 podcasts that the subject has maintained uninterrupted auditory and visual engagement with, evidencing a strong affinity.
We do film it.
The subject regularly consumes all episodes via YouTube, reinforcing the platform's role in content dissemination.
Thank you.
Methodology. The subject's responses were monitored across 2 distinct viewings of the cinematic entity Romulus. Variations in emotional and cognitive processings were observed and recorded for analysis. Findings. Initial viewing, rapid cognitive processing. The subject's first interaction with Alien Romulus was characterized by a perception of rapid pacing, action-oriented. The subject expressed a desire for narrative pauses, indicating a preference for moments of cognitive deceleration to process the film's development.
I like to think it's being written like a yellow siren is going off,
Yeah.
ship sinking into reactor.
So basically,
overload.
you thought the pacing was too fast, you would have liked some more pauses. Okay.
Sure.
Second viewing, horror reinterpretation. Upon re-exposure, the subject reported a marked shift in genre perception, identifying Romulus more strongly as a horror entity. The subject noted an enhanced ability to follow narrative beats and a more comfortable pacing experience during this second engagement. So you've seen it twice, and on second viewing, you find it more of a horror film. Gotcha. Professional involvement. The subject is professionally involved in the visual effects industry as a compositor.
Nice.
Notably, this marks the first instance where a project the subject contributed to received favourable critique from Pulp Kitchen, while past contributions have been met with mixed reviews. By the way, a compositor, are we talking...
It's like visual effects, like compositing things onto screen. That might not be that.
The subject expresses particular pride in their work on Romulus. And we'll just say on that point as well, I always have sympathy for VFX artists in the sense that CGI has just become like a buzzword for like what's ever wrong. And someone had made this compilation online, which I thought was really enlightening, about lots of movies where they say, we said no we said no CGI, we want to do it practical, and no, we did that, that's all real. And even though they had used CGI in it, but also the fact that they were just even putting down CGIs. I mean, like, CGI can be incredibly innovative and incredibly useful and vital to doing a film. It's just with the conditions and the pressure sometimes CGI artists are put on, VFX artists.
And a lot of that was coming out when people were talking about crap effects in recent Marvel films and others. Yeah. It's like a lot of them coming up saying, look, like, we don't have the time and the manpower to do it. People are underpaid, overworked.
You often never see it. You never say it when it's good because it's often seamless. That's the whole point, right? That's the thing with craft. But anyway, conclusion. The subject's sustained engagement with Pulp Kitchen demonstrates the programme's effectiveness in fostering long-term listener-viewer loyalty. The differential response to Romulus across viewings highlights the subject's deepening appreciation for the film's narrative structure, a discovery process accelerated by the insights provided in the Pulp Kitchen review. Acknowledgement. The subject expresses profound appreciation for the quality of analysis provided by Pulp Kitchen, particularly in recognising narrative elements that the subject only identified upon subsequent viewings. This report concludes with a commendation of the host's perceptive and candid reviews, which have contributed to the subject's professional and personal satisfaction. End of report. Scott, Corbalon 4, control room, sirens on my end.
I'm picturing a rubbery Ian home.
Yeah. With his waist sawn off.
Yeah.
Talking about his prime directive. Thank you, Scott, for that brilliantly formatted email. What a good bit of fun. We do like it. Your commitment to the bit I admire.
Very good. Guys, thank you so much for sending in your emails. Don't forget, you can send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and we will read them out on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Let's get on with the game to send us home. James, as ever, Pulp Kitchen ends
With a game.
We are back this week with another round of the language game. You guys have been enjoying it so much on social media. We've been asking you what languages we do next. If you haven't checked it out already, we have done German, we have done French, and this week, James, we continue our tour of Europe because today I'm asking you to guess the movie from its Spanish film title. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
I would say, like German compared to French, I know Spanish a lot less.
But I thought it's another romance language. You should be able to pick. You probably know the odd word more in German, I'd say. You know, you didn't know Die Klapperschlange, but you might know what Hermanos is.
Die Klapperschlange was what? Rattlesnake. Yeah, of course. I'll never forget that now.
No.
Die Klapperschlange.
Die Klapperschlange. Okay, so James, I have a series. Just a reminder for the listeners. Sorry. Again, James, I have a series of Spanish film titles. These are the actual titles that the films were released as in Spain, which are very strange translations of the original movie. So I'm going to read you the title in Spanish, then read you the translation, and you have to tell me what film you think that is. Full disclosure, these are all in Spanish. Obviously, I don't know. I've sourced these from the internet. I don't know whether some were released in Latin America or Spain. It doesn't matter. It's still technically all Spanish.
Deepest apologies to anyone affected by this game.
A lot of people, deep apologies to any nations, because a lot of people on the French video were like, "Oh, so this is actually some of it's French Quebec, Quebec French, Quebecois,"
fine.
and I'm like, "It's still French, okay? For my intents and purposes,
Thanks
it's
for the
fine."
view, anyway.
So so James,
Yes.
I'm trying to get my accent ready to be at least partially respectful. Again, I did Spanish for a year. You did Spanish for a year at school.
I'd say I did it for a year. I tried for half a year, and then I was like, I'm not going to do this again.
We've been to Spain ourselves many times.
Oh yeah, I love Spain.
Love's
great.
Love
Barcelona?
Spanish.
Kidding me?
Hello to any
Mallorca?
hola to any
Love it.
Spanish listeners as well.
Yes, please.
Any more?
That's right.
Okay. Guess the movie from its Spanish film title. Dos rubias de pelo en pecho. Two blondes with hair on their chest.
With hair on their chest? Two blondes?
Dos rubias de pelo
White
en pecho.
chicks.
Correct.
Yes.
Un canguro super duro. A super tough babysitter.
The pacifier?
Yes. La selva de cristal. The glass jungle.
Not glass onion, glass jungle.
No glasses in the original title. If someone's in a big, not a concrete jungle, it's a
glass jungle.
which is typified by lots of
buildings.
So a film that's set in a building a lot. Die Hard.
Oh, okay. That's really strange.
I know, right? Un guarda espaldas escolar. A school bodyguard.
A school bodyguard would be a school bodyguard.
Owen Wilson.
Oh, Drillbit Taylor.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Great movie.
Teléfono rojo, volamos hacia Moscú. Which means, red phone, let's fly to Moscow.
Wait, red phone, let's fly to Moscow.
Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, okay, I've not seen it.
I don't think you need to say it. You still wouldn't have got it.
No.
Experto en división. Oh, no. Experto en diversión.
Okay.
Expert in fun.
Ace Ventura.
No, not bad show. It's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, okay.
Todo sobre mi... I've written these out phonetically, so I'm trying to get it right. Todo sobre mi desmadre. All about my wild party.
All about my wild party. Project X.
Get him to the Greek.
Oh, okay.
¿Qué pasó ayer? ¿Qué pasó ayer? What happened yesterday?
Dude, Where's My Car?
No, similar.
The Hangover.
Correct.
The Hangover. Should have said that first.
Papa por siempre. Papa por siempre, which means dad forever.
Dad forever. Big Daddy?
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Oh, okay.
La noche de las narices frías, which is the night of the cold noses.
The Pale Blue Eye with Christian Bale. The Night.
If I said to you 15 puppies,
101 Dalmatians.
It's 101
oh my God. Oh
Dalmatians.
yeah, because the puppy says, I'm so cold, my nose is turning blue.
final two, El extraño mundo de Jack. Jack's Strange World.
Jack and the Beanstalk?
No.
Jack's Strange World. Jack's Strange World. That's not helping, no.
A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And lastly, La Novicía Rebelde, which is the Rebel Novice.
The Rebel Novice. A New Hope.
It's actually The Sound of Music.
Because he's like a new rebel in Star Wars.
I apologize again for my Spanish accent in that. I'm
You
really not fluent at all.
Just fully lent into the delivery. Like, you asked the question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Papa por siempre. I love that. Fun little facts.
It was like watching Friends in Portugal back in the noughties.
Yeah, when
and
it's
like
just dubbed
Joey
over.
has a different voice.
So the pacifier was un canguro super duro, which
Yeah.
literally translates as like a super tough kangaroo. But in Spain, a kangaroo is slang for a babysitter. I
Oh,
guess 'cause of
nice.
the pouch or
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
And,
He's got like the pacifier. Yeah.
and then with get him to the Greek, which was todo sobre mi desmadre, which is all about my wild party. It's todo sobre mi desmadre is actually a pun on a very famous movie called Pedro Almodovar movie called All About My Mother, which is todo sobre di madre, but they've changed it to mi desmadre, which means my party. So it's like a little pun in the title that
cool,
we as
nice.
English speakers wouldn't get.
Right, yeah.
But calling 101 Dalmatians La Noche de las Narias Frias, calling it, the night of the cold noses.
It's like one point where the puppies get really cold.
Anyway, that was Spanish this
Brilliant.
week, guys. Apologies for butchering it, but muchas gracias for listening anyway.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. We thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget you can listen to new episodes of Pulp Kitchen every single Wednesday.
Thank you for your continued support on Patreon, those who do sign up to that. We have got episodes every week exclusive to Patreon on Double Take, where we talk about the news of the film industry that week, really getting into it. If you sign up now, you've got the entire back catalogue to get into.
Guys, it's a whole nother show.
It's a whole other show. We love
We're not
doing
even
it.
here. We're in a different place.
We're in a
It's really good
different
fun.
place.
Go check it out.
We're also posting old reviews. And we're also posting reviews exclusive to Patreon as well. We did The Parent Trap. I did Koyana Scuzzi this week. Hope to do more of those as well. But just thank you again for your support on that. And our producers, Aidan and Finn, as ever. And also, for all of our listeners, thank you for listening as ever. And thank you for your continued support on Instagram and TikTok and sharing and
great
engaging.
numbers.
We love it. If you're a new listener, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Just hit 100K on TikTok, which is massive. Thank you.
Oh, that's really good for us. And regular listeners, as well as new ones. I've lost my marbles, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to say welcome, thank you, everyone. Sorry, the Spanish has just scrabbled in my brain. You know in Toy Story 3 where Buzz gets knocked into Spanish? I'm Spanish George for a little bit.
Funny.
Yeah.
Did you see, by the way, just quickly, Quentin
Tarantino.
Tarantino said, he agrees with us.
What's lovely is he was like, Toy Story 3 is one of the best movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he agrees. Like you concluded that story
was perfect.
the
Yeah.
best way you could.
Yeah.
And then they bring out Toy Story 3. Toy Story
I don't know.
4. I don't need to see it.
So there you go, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.